and welcome to the Become a Guitarist Today podcast with myself, Adam Roach. Now, don't forget, if you do like this podcast, hit the like button, subscribe, and the little bell so you don't miss out on any episodes.
There we go.
There you are.
All very professional here at the studio now. So
Yeah, I know, you got it all worked out.
my multi-camera setup and everything. Yeah, it's all cool.
That's very cool.
I have the guitar here. Obviously got the person-to-person, 2 cameras, and then if you just want to focus on this, the right hand, you can do that. So
Look at that.
it's pretty nice.
That's great. Yeah, well, thanks again for doing this for us.
Oh, no worries. God, my pleasure.
Like I said, it's only been, 7 years since our last one. So it's been a while.
Is it 7 years? You're kidding me, really?
Yeah, 7 years. We did our first interview on the podcast when I very first started doing the podcast. And but then I spoke to you in between. We did during the whole pandemic. We had the A minor challenge thing, and then we had
That's
the
right,
album,
yeah.
and then you did it solo on the album as well.
Yeah, was there a Journey tune as well? Don't Stop Believing or something?
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, Jim Couples sang it, didn't he?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Now we had this album that you played on.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, which is coming out great. So thanks again for doing that. That was unreal.
Oh, look, no worries. God, thanks for asking me. Jeez,
Yeah, no, the whole album came out really good. I mean, between yourself and Jack Thummerite on that one track, it was really good.
great. All right, well, that's good.
Yeah. So I got your book yesterday.
Oh, fantastic. You got the PDF version then?
Yeah, so I brought the PDF with the the videos and everything, which was really good. I didn't expect that, so that was great. It's really good.
Yeah, when we were doing it, or when we were talking about it, I was talking with Luke about it, and originally I talked to another company about it quite a few years ago. It was like at the beginning of the pandemic, and
Mm.
I was going to try and do some sort of book for them, and really good people. And the stumbling block for me was always transcribing because I'm just not trained in that. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah.
Using Guitar Pro is like a walking through molasses for me. But when I spoke to Luke about it,
Yeah.
we sort of had another conversation about it only just about November of last year, and I went back to Guitar Pro and I was like, this is never going to work. I'll never get this done because what he originally wanted was 100 hybrid picking exercises,
Oh, well.
and I was like, I don't even have 100. I don't even have many exercises at all, and I thought I'd have to invent brand new ones, which is fine. But
Yeah.
I said I'd rather do it where I have 50 exercises and then a musical example to go to each. Otherwise, someone's sitting there doing this exercise going, what am I doing this? This is the most unmusical thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
Then you can give them a musical reason to do it and go, oh, okay, so you could do that with it. And I said, it'd be much easier if I could just send you video and you guys could all transcribe it. And he said, no problem. So
Wow.
that system really worked for us in the end.
Yeah, and that's great the way you've done that. I mean, I don't think I've seen that before, where you have the exercise and then playing it in context type thing with the next little.
Yeah, well, like I said, it was like I thought 50 exercises is more than enough. I mean, you could come up with heaps more. It's a bottomless pit of exercises for that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
But I thought 50 is plenty, and
Yeah.
and I really wanted to do some sort of musical example to show people that, and they're not all like shred things either. Like I
No,
mean,
no.
some of the examples are they're quite slow and groovy sort of things, and I offset the timing of them so they might start on the one and or the one E and
Yep.
stuff like that. So, which to me makes them even more musical. So,
Mm.
and I tried to build the book in a way where you start with the pick and just this middle finger, then you bridge to the pick and the next finger, and then finally the pick and the last three, which is probably quite a challenge for a lot of people because it's a little unusual.
Yeah. Well, I must say it was a challenge for me because I've always played guitar, like last 42 years or whatever, and I've always held it with the two fingers on the back.
Ah, right, yeah,
So
yeah.
when I started on this one, I thought, oh, gee, holding like that and using a middle finger, it was quite a challenge.
The first person I heard that did that was Eddie Van Halen, because
Yeah,
he held it with the two because he used the first finger for all the tapping, and
yeah,
so the second finger held onto the pick, which was really unique. When I did the tapping, I would just hold it with the regular way and then tap with this finger.
yeah.
So which I think is probably more conventional. But
Yeah, which is funny because I mean, Eddie's one of my biggest influences. I got all the Eddie Wall here and everything.
you bet, yeah,
But I really don't remember, sitting down and like, oh, say, I'm going to be like that. I'm going to copy that technique. It's like it just happened.
yeah.
I mean, like if like same thing. If I pick and then go to my tapping, the pick goes in here and
Wow, so you palm it like that, right?
yeah,
Okay,
so
yeah,
everything, yeah, and then do that.
amazing.
Yeah, then it goes like that. So yeah, so when I first started doing your one to get that pick going, just to get that middle finger going, especially when you get into that where you're doing the middle and then the up stroke. I think it was on there the triple. What was it called?
It's like a triplet sort of a lick, isn't it?
Yeah,
Bubba
yeah,
bubba da bubba da.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That was really difficult for me.
Yeah, I just did a because I have a Patreon site, and I just did a lesson literally about an hour ago. I just did a lesson for my patrons,
Mm.
and it was I was watching this great interview that Rick Beato did with Matteo Mancuso and Matteo Sasato. He's deliberately had those two on because their names are so close, and we
Yeah,
all keep getting them mixed up.
yeah,
But yeah, I've just been absolutely, enthralled with Matteo's prodigious technique. And Rick said, "Have you got a lick that's really exclusive to your technique?" And Matteo did this fantastic lick. And Rick looked at Mateus and said, "That would be impossible to hybrid pick." And I thought, wow, I wonder if it is. I wonder if it actually is impossible.
yeah.
And I managed to figure out a method for it. It's still brutally hard. I mean,
Mm.
Mateo's technique is just frightening, but um, it can be done. Or at least this lick could anyway.
Yeah,
And but I think it's probably exclusive to someone, say like myself, who's used to using the pick and these other three fingers, because it's definitely. I think Matteo might use his thumb and these three fingers,
yeah,
which is the really strong grouping. That's like your Tommy Emmanuel,
yeah.
Joe Robinson grouping for that incredibly physical acoustic playing they do. But
Mm.
but yeah, I dug it because I thought, well, hopefully this book will give some people some inspiration, because it'd be kind of brutal everyone's into Mateo. Like, I mean, we're all just enthralled with everything he's doing, and it's be kind of brutal to have invested so much effort into the flat pick, and he comes along and sort of says, "Well, I don't even need one," and just throws it away. So
Oh,
it
yeah.
might be a way to. I hope it can bridge people to be able to still be influenced by him and use some of his ideas without having to throw their pick away. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
for sure. I mean, it definitely has. Like I said, I mean, my main job is a guitar teacher, but I feel like I've gone back to the start again. With this book,
A lot of those exercises made me feel like I'd gone back to the start again. I tell you,
yeah,
well, like I said, when I started looking at Mateo's lick, yeah, it's right back to basics. It's
mm,
because it's something brand new that I've never done before, and I sort of said that in the Patreon thing too. It's just brilliant that, like, it's important that older guys like me keep tabs on what the young guys are doing, because they are the ones pushing everything forward, and you gotta keep watching, because it's a real injection of something fresh and new, and it's exciting. It's
oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't get sort of stuck in your ways and stodgy. You gotta stay
Ah,
stay hip to what the young guys are doing, or the young players are doing. I shouldn't just say guys. I
yeah,
mean that in a non-generic, a non-specific way. But yeah,
yeah,
you got to stay up to what the young guys are doing.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, the way you explain it too, like with the different contents before the actual exercises. Like it's funny because
Right.
I tried the exercise just with the tab. And then I went back and read what you said. Like, oh yes, that's exactly right. What you said about this one's being a bit trickier because you're doing that upstroke or different things,
Yeah.
things that it's really good having that text there. So it gives you an understanding of what to do as well.
Well, I mean, like I've said in countless interviews, and I was lucky enough to interview Frank Gambale about, think it was about 5 months ago, and put it on my YouTube channel. And like I said to Frank, like when I saw his instructional video all the way back in, oh, I think it was 88 or 89,
And yeah,
and that just blew my mind apart because not I mean, obviously what he was doing with his right hand with the sweeping was just mind blowing, but when I looked at what his left hand was doing, the way he was sitting those lines on the fretboard, I realized I could probably adapt a lot of that approach to the hybrid picking.
mm,
And all of us, because I already had quite a bit of technique with the hybrid stuff and I had a lot of licks. But once I saw Frank, I realized that it could go way further than that and actually just be incorporated into playing lines. So it was really, it was such an exciting thing. So yeah, and I do incorporate a lot of sweep picking, downward motion sweep picking into my lines. So
yeah,
yeah, thanks to Frank for all that.
yeah. Back in those, I think I had that one on a beta tape back in the day. The Frank Gambale.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
This was a VHS, so yeah,
yeah,
it was.
yeah. So, what would you describe the main difference between like what he does, the sweep picking, and the hybrid? So, for people,
Well, it's just that Frank's exclusively using the pick
yeah,
to access that cross string motion, whereas I use the pick and whatever other fingers I can get moving at the time. And
mm,
um, uh, I mean, you know, Frank's capable of absolute supersonic velocity speeds using the sweep picking, and I'm, I mean, I've got a little bit of swiftness with the hybrid stuff, but like I say to people, this book isn't even necessarily made. It's not to show people how whether I'm any good or not. It's to
mm,
hopefully give that younger generation or another group of people ideas so they can get some exciting ideas out of it. That's what it's about. It's
yeah, yeah, for sure.
certainly not about me showcasing myself. If anything, it showcases weaknesses, but that's great because I want to expose those weaknesses and give them to other people so they can turn them into their strengths and move forward. So that's what it's really there for.
Yeah. So at the moment, I've pretty much gone through like the first 10, I'd say, which you're going into. I won't give it all away, but doing the pedal doubles,
Yeah, yeah.
triplet doubles, yeah, and a lot of the hand position as well. So can you just like a brief description of what happens after that? Like I know you got 50
Um,
lessons on there, so you got
yeah,
50
just like
exercises.
I said, it starts with the most here we'll get fancy and I'll put my two
All right,
cameras in here and
here we go.
yeah, yeah, it starts with the first real lick I ever capitalized on, which was just simply hitting a string there,
Yep,
and then
that's great.
yeah, that was the very first sort of concept I came up with for doing with this was, and it was really everything moved from there. Like whenever I was playing any notes here,
Yep,
this second finger was accessing that next string, so it was. And I don't pick every note, so I mean I would be hammering on the last note there, so that gives me time to. So
mhm,
yeah, it was this second finger started to do that, and I'd already been experimenting with using my other fingers because I was trying to play acoustic that way. I didn't understand that people used their thumbs or thumb picks,
yeah,
and I hadn't met Tommy Emmanuel yet, so I was still yet to learn this. And but uh, but yeah, then the book moves from. Well, actually, I try to sort of take that concept of just using the pick and this finger, the finger,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and try to expand that too. So you get into playing say three note arpeggios, but so there's that strange beginning with an upstroke thing. So
There
where
you
you
go.
get that, but it's because for me I would probably be more natural using the pick and these two fingers. So it would just be. But rather than just dump that straight onto people,
Yeah,
because that if you've never tried this before, that could be quite a challenge.
yeah,
And I wanted to show that there are options where you can use the pick and just one finger and still play quite a few of the exercises, and then it moves to the pick and the next two fingers, and then of course the last third or whatever of the book is the pick and these three, which is
mm.
for a lot of people is going to be sort of a brave new world.
Oh, for sure.
But that's sort of what I was saying what I also said in my Patreon thing about Matteo was when we see a player of, you see any player like that, like a Frank Gambale, an Alan Holdsworth, a Scott Henderson, an Eddie Van Halen, anyone, Steve Vai, it doesn't matter, Matteo Mancuso. When you see that sort of prodigious level of virtuosity, it's hard not to look at it and just go, well, I mean, they're just obviously blessed with something that the rest of us struggle for. And but
Yeah,
it's not that. I mean, I'm not saying that they haven't got an incredible natural ability, but you are seeing a work ethic. That's what you're seeing, is that commitment to, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to work at this until I can do it,
yeah, yeah,
and then I'll work on the next thing. And it really is quite. It's quite a remarkable. It's a very humbling thing to sort of acknowledge, because that is the bottom line. I got to meet so many amazing musicians that play all sorts of instruments, especially when I was living in America, and there wasn't one of them that said, "Yeah, I just kind of roll out of bed and it just happens. I'm born that way." It's
yeah,
they all work. They all work hard. So
yeah,
it's the great leveler.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So I know in the book also, I mean, like another thing I was blown away by that every exercise does come with a video, and pretty much like how you just described then, you know, the two different angles, which is great because you get to see, you know, what you're doing exactly with the pick on the angle, and then straight on
Absolutely. Yeah.
thing is just really that was to me that was like the, you know, the big thing about learning those exercises. Now you see it in a book, you think, oh, yeah, that's okay, but to see it visually, it's a huge help, I believe.
Yeah, I was sort of struggling to try and figure out how to actually capture it. I'll go back to my two cameras again,
Yeah,
um, and because you know that fantastic website Troy O'Grady, I think it is, who does Cracking the Code. He does the website about picking,
okay.
and he's got this camera. I've seen Levi Clay use it too, and it's a camera attachment that clips onto the neck about here,
Ah,
and so you can position an iPhone or something, so you're right on the pick. You get that angle completely in vivid detail.
yeah,
But the trouble is, in playing the exercises, I like to use the whole neck. So I've
yeah,
tried to sort of get a little tricky when you get up here. But if I sort of face the camera, maybe I'll just move that a little bit that way. Even when I'm up the top, you can still. So if I'm playing all the, you can still sort of see what's happening with the right hand, even though, and so the left hand doesn't obscure it. So I tried to make sure I did that. Pardon my scratchy volume part.
yeah.
I tried to do that with the book as well, so that the left hand doesn't obscure the right hand.
Yeah, no, it definitely comes across too. Like I said, everything's really clear, and I mean, you also got the audio files as well.
Yeah, yeah,
But basically, got the 50 exercise videos, the 50 licks with the videos, which is, you know, great to hear them in context, and then the other folder with the audio. So you pretty much got everything. And
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
like I said, I've only covered the first 10, and there's already heaps there already. So I'm sure with the 50, once I get there,
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
be playing like you.
It's a long road, yeah.
For sure.
There's some fun stuff in there, and the very last exercise is actually the main riff from my song "Undoing" off my first solo album, Big Sky. And I figured, well, that's about as musical as you can get. Like if you're like, well, this is the technique, and I wrote a song with it. So
Oh,
so
right.
I figure that's a great example of musicality combined with these exercises, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the riff of the tune. So it came about because a friend of mine and I were talking, and he said, "Have you got any good diminished sequences, like for diminished arpeggios?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Let's try and think something up." So I think I came up with something like that. And I thought, well, whatever. I'm not really much of a one for playing sequences. I don't really tend to do a lot of that. But I thought, yeah, I kind of like that rhythm, and I like the rhythm of it sounds really cool. But I'm not going to write a song using a diminished arpeggio. So I just took that rhythm and just kept working on lines until I came up with something that sounded like a. sounded melodic, and
Mm,
I
it
could
does.
hear the chords underneath it in my head. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was kind of cool. It's
Yeah.
just like I sort of try to let people know that with this particular, I like the technique to be buried in the music. So when I combine it with my left hand approach,
Mm,
uh, it's not really like, oh, he's hybrid picking. Oh, now he's doing his legato thing, and now he's 4 notes per string and all this sort of stuff. It's just this guy just plays, you know.
yeah.
And I think that's the magic of Mateo as well. It's like we're not really, he's doing so many things at the same time. You can't boil it down to like, oh, he just uses his hand to pick notes. There's so much more going on than just that, which is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So, and the other good thing, I mean, the whole book and the videos, and everything, it's not expensive. Like it's $20 US, I think it was,
I think so. Yeah,
like
yeah.
34 or something Australian, which is for the amount of stuff you get in it. That's great price. You know, it's like one lesson you pay for. You get 50 lessons.
Yeah, it's great. It's a good bang for your buck, you know, these days. Um, Everything's tight for people, so and you know, like for me, it's like it's just. I hope that it gives some people some inspiration. That'd be the ultimate gift. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't expect to be buying Ferraris from it, and I don't even really care.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I'd be really stoked if a lot of people, if it helped them move in another direction. And
Yeah.
the cool thing is that you can apply it to like for it'd be even a good thing for some country players as well. It might give
Mm,
them some new ideas. So because that's the where the technique is actually rooted in, I think. Like its roots are in country guitar. That's where it is for me anyway.
yeah.
So yeah, you never know. It could jump a few genres and
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, you demonstrate it in like that A minor challenge that we did, back in the COVID days.
that's
Like,
right. Yeah.
yeah, like everyone had their different ideas, but then I remember when you did yours, everyone's like, wow, I didn't know you could do that just on that one scale. And I think one of the guys actually tapped it out as well.
He did. That's right. Yeah, it was fascinating to see it. Like that was such a great concept that because
Yeah.
everyone had such a different take on it completely. And I really love Simon Hosford's because I knew Simon was going to come in all guns blazing with that incredible ultimate picking that he's got. And that is the thing with that incredible superior picking technique that he's got is like you can take something as straightforward as an A minor or like a pentatonic
Yeah. Yeah.
shape and just absolutely do some ripping stuff with it. So,
Mm.
but I can't do that. So I had to try to think of something else to do.
Yeah, I remember you said that was like probably one of your hardest things you had to do.
It was, yeah, yeah. To play just minor pentatonic is very strange for me, but sometimes a limiting factor is really cool because it'll force you to think a different way.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I still use it to this day. Like, when I'm teaching my students that learning how to improvise, and I tell them, let's just work on that scale, and then I'd show them the video, and they're like, oh wow.
Yeah. One of the main things I do get asked a lot by people and is moving around a pentatonic, like
Yeah,
because they start off in the box and it's a great first thing to learn for somebody because it's not a great deal to remember and you can make music with it straight away, but
mm,
they always get frustrated because they see other players who seem to be able to do it all over the neck, and that's the
yeah,
next challenge is linking everything together and
yeah, exactly.
all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, making the neck as a scale rather than
That's
just
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, doing away with the boxes and having
yeah,
just a great big sandpit to play in.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, so that's pretty much the book. So what else is happening with your playing at the moment?
Well, I'm not doing a great deal of live playing, which look, that could be by choice too. I mean, um, I loved playing with John Farnham so much. Like it was sort of funny. Like everyone, a lot of my American friends, because they didn't know John at all, and they just knew that I worked with a really, really well-known pop artist back in Australia.
Mm,
And I think they thought, yeah, that's his pop gig that he does until the cool stuff comes along, like prog rock or something like that. And I was like, no, you don't understand.
yeah,
I do the other stuff until he wants to do something again, and then I'm happy. Like,
yeah,
I'm always happy to play on anything,
yeah.
playing with John was really just a dream come true for me. He's my favourite singer in the world, and he was just the most wonderful person to work with.
Mm,
Um, I think of a more giving person. And the environment him and Glenn Wheatley created as a artist management situation, it was such a family environment. I don't even pretend that I'd ever find that again. So
Yeah, for
it,
sure.
so yeah, it's I'm sort of happy to stay here at home with my family and work online and
Yeah,
try different things like this. And I suppose that's the thing too. It's like live playing on my own terms. Like it'd have to be a situation where I got to really blow a bit and expand my concepts of
yeah.
improvising and playing and rather than like being in a cover band isn't going to cut it. And
No, no.
and and see, I had that with John. Like he would just say, it's your gig. You do what you got to do. Like
Yeah,
like so, it was entirely up to me whether I played the same solo in a song or I could improvise. And what a gift, to be able to play
yeah,
in a band doing big shows. And yeah, you can feel free to improvise as much as you want, like as long as you don't go crazy. But sometimes John liked it when I went crazy. He kind of liked to he liked to push it himself on stage because he was an incredible improviser in himself. He never sang a song the same way twice usually. So,
yeah,
but yeah, unfortunately, because he's been battling this illness, and I think he's doing great from what I can gather. I think he's doing really well. But yeah, there's no real live stuff for me at the moment, which is a bit of a drag. But who knows? That may change. But uh,
yeah.
but I'm still working hard here at home, trying to keep my chops up and
No, that's good.
stay
Yeah,
inspired.
yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I was going to ask, have you heard how he's going, John? So latest update.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's doing really well from what I can gather. So
Oh,
thank
good.
goodness for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I mean, like I said, I mean, definitely this book that must have kept you busy. How long did it take you to do this whole book?
It didn't take me that long. Once I once I really just got the concept in my head, and I got the method down how to film it and how to
Mm,
edit it all together. It was really quick. It would have been much longer for Luke to sit there and transcribe everything because
yeah.
he had the hard yards of because I think the solos are transcribed as well. I haven't actually seen the book yet. I don't
Oh
have a
yeah.
copy of it yet. So yeah, I'm still waiting for it to come in the post. But
Oh wow.
um, but
Yeah. So
yeah, there'd be a lot of work in there transcribing all that stuff. Like I said, some of the exercises were quite challenging because um, I had to, like the initial exercises I had when I was really trying to develop it back in the early 90s, like it was, well, I suppose it was like 88, 89 when I was really trying to build some facility with it. And I had exercises where I'd take a simple, just a major seven arpeggio, and I'd go back and forth between the little finger and the third finger and the third finger and the second finger like this. I'd just go, and I thought, well, I could have put that in the book as an exercise, like as a strength building exercise, but I never use that when I improvise. I never play that in any musical context. So there almost could have been another section of the book where it was purely just exercises to build strength. But I think
yeah,
most of the stuff that's in there will achieve that anyway. I think
yeah.
that if you can really wrap your digits around all of the stuff that's in there, then you're going to have some facility by the end of it. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like you're saying, just with those, I mean, there's one of the exercises. You can see that it's a tabbed out.
Yeah,
Like,
right. Yeah, number
so
two. Yep, yep.
yeah. So between that and the actual exercise, there's already a lot involved in that,
Right.
and then you got 50 of those, so heaps there.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot there. But it
Yeah.
didn't take too long once I got into it. And once I figured out that I didn't have to transcribe it,
Mm,
mentally I was because I had a mental block when I thought I can't do this. I just can't notate this stuff and
yeah.
do all this. And it's kind of tough because like the next thing people would like me to do is a book on the chromaticism, like the chromatic approach that I have when I play music and which isn't really complex. It's not a complex thing. It's just rhythmically it could be a little strange because it's kind of a cramming a bunch of notes into a situation where there could be some quintuplets and things going on. So it'll take someone much more skilled than I am to transcribe all that stuff. But if all I have to do is play it and then some poor soul has to sit there and transcribe it, then I can work with that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
man,
easy.
it's such a regret. I really do regret that I never, and it wasn't from lack of trying or a desire to do it. I just never, there was nowhere around in the 70s or even in the 80s for
Mm,
me to go to school to learn anything like that.
yeah,
By the time those schools were starting to exist, I was already out touring and working.
yeah, yeah, that's right.
Uh, but when I was teaching at Musicians Institute for a while, but I mainly did open counselings and private lessons. So I
Okay.
wasn't teaching sight reading or anything like that. I would have been fired if I had been.
Yeah,
But the good thing was, I think a lot of guys knew that I wasn't much of a reader, and I think they'd try to find an ally in me. And
yeah,
yeah, this guy doesn't really read. He'll tell us we don't need to work on it. And they got the exact opposite.
yeah.
I said, man, you're in a city, you're in one of the best schools in the world with some of the best teachers in the world, players in the world.
Mm,
Do it, and you'll thank me for it later. Trust me. So
yeah, yeah, that's right.
I say
Yeah,
the ability to have an idea, grab that napkin and a pencil and write it on that napkin so you don't forget it. Rhythm, notes, everything.
yeah.
What a skill to have. Oh
Oh,
man,
yeah,
yeah, just I dream of it.
yeah. Yeah, I must say I don't do it as much now. Like when I first started, I started on classical guitar at the beginning as well. So like you had to
Right.
have your reading down. But then over the
That's it,
years,
isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. But over the years, it's just like gone. I mean, it's still there. I can know how to read, but it's not as much. Especially teaching now, the kids just want to learn how to play and
Well, I studied classical from about, I think, for about the year of 17 to 18.
okay.
And because I wanted to learn classical because Richie Blackmore did. And I thought, well,
Yeah,
if Richie did it, I got to do it.
yeah,
And I found this fantastic teacher in Bendigo, which isn't far from where I lived when I was young and where I live right now
mm,
near Castlemaine, named Don Charlton. And Don was just great. And he was really, it's quite fun because he gave me very simple etudes to work on, things like that. Out of the, is it Corelli or I can't remember the name, but I've still got the books
yeah.
around here
Okay,
somewhere.
yeah, I've probably got it here somewhere.
They were
Yeah.
very simple, and I'd take ages to learn them on classical guitar, not on electric, but I'd memorize them.
Mm,
And so once I'd learned them, I just memorized them and wouldn't look at the paper again. And one day I was playing through one, and I got halfway through and, of course, clammed it. And I said, "Oh, sorry." I went back and I started again, and Don was right on to me. He said,
yeah.
"No, no, no, just start here from bar 7." I'm going through it like this, and he said, "You're not reading this, are you?" And he said, "You've memorized it." And I said, "Well, yeah, I read it to learn it, but I memorized it." And he said, "Don't do that."
Oh, really?
He said, every time you play it, read it. He
Yeah.
said, that way your reading will get better. He said, if you don't do that, I can't push you to get better at reading. And the funniest thing was I studied with him for like I said, nearly a year. And
Mm,
I think I was there for about in the 6th or 7th month. And he's given me this. He said, yeah, take this home. And I'm really struggling. I'm like, wow, this is hard. And I'm working through it. And I'd come back in and I'd put it down and I could play it. And
yeah.
okay, now take this home. And he kept going. And he's laughing to himself. And in the end, one day I said, man, this is really hard. And he said, yeah. He said, I know. That's why you're getting better at it because I'm pushing you. And in the end, we were sight reading duets together, and it was the
Mm,
most enthralling thing I'd ever done. Like he would say, right, we're going to play this, and he just shoved the book in front of me. You're playing part 2, and we'd sit there, and I'm astonished. I'm going, I can't believe this is happening. Like I've never seen this before, and never played it before, and this beautiful music's bouncing around the room, and
yeah.
it was the most exciting thing. Like I try to convey that to people when they get frustrated with reading, and I say, "Oh, it's the biggest blast! Like I had it and I lost it because
Yeah.
after about 4 years of being on the road with John, I got those books out again, and it was right back to every good boy." It was terrible. I went, "Well, you don't use it, you lose it." So
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
yes,
That definitely happens for sure.
yeah. My
Yeah.
friend Rick Fiorabracci that I played, Rick's one of the best bassists in the world, one of the best musicians in the world, and Rick still practices his reading like
Mm,
constantly. And so, yeah, Rick is that guy. Like Craig Newman, same. A
yeah.
lot of the musos I work with, you just stick it in front of them, they can play it, and
Yeah.
that's because they do it, because they use it, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's a skill that you must maintain it like a muscle.
Yeah. Exactly. No, that's right. Yeah, that's great. But I'm sure everyone's going to love this book once they get onto it. And like I said, it really does open up the hybrid picking to everyone. I know 'cause I had a lot of students ask, "What is hybrid picking?" Explain a little bit to them, but this really goes into depth. Like exactly what you said from the start to the end
Yeah.
of
Well, that's the thing. When Mateo sort of started to burst on the scene, at first it was mainly like the first clips I remember seeing of him were him playing like Paul Gilbert tunes,
oh yeah, yeah.
and he was mainly doing it with that the sort of rest technique that he uses that he can
Mm,
do phenomenally fast, and it's like listening to Paul alternate pick,
yeah,
and that was amazing. But then, of course, later on when he started to really like he started to release his own tunes and improvise on a lot of different stuff, and that's when he really started to blow people away. And man, I'm always blown away at his incredible facility and his musicality. But I related to it. I didn't. It wasn't like I could understand how if someone had mainly been an alternate picker all their life, they wouldn't have been led down those particular paths of how to group the notes on the fretboard like that.
yeah.
But I'm sure Frank Ambali recognised nearly all of it because Frank did it too. Frank did it. Like he's the guy that really could move his pick like that, and instead of just doing a straight arpeggio like a lot of metal players were doing,
Yeah.
Frank was playing lines. He was playing actual scale lines, and that's what got me. That's when I thought one limiting thing for me is the ability to do those big 6 note sweeps. That's hard to do with your fingers.
Oh yeah.
Hard for me to do.
Mm,
But what's easier for me to do is the smaller groupings, like 2 strings, 3 strings, and hide them inside lines so that you don't necessarily, if you can't see me,
mm,
you'd be like, well, how are you accessing those notes? And
yeah. Yeah.
and it would be a little confusing. When I interviewed Frank, it was funny because I said it's basically you and Alan. I said Alan opened up the neck to me because Alan Holdsworth wouldn't say a lot in interviews. He didn't like to talk about playing the guitar very much,
Yeah.
and so any snippet I could get, just a glimpse into how this guy is so amazing.
Mm.
And Alan just said, I use a lot of 4 note per string scales. And that's it. That's what he said. It was pretty much that sentence. And then he moved on to the next thing. And I thought, okay, 4 note per string scales. Well, I guess he means instead of playing, I guess he means that's exactly what he meant.
Yeah.
And so any scale Alan plays out of that Slaminski book is he can do it 4 notes per string or not.
Yeah.
And I realized that I started to come up with sort of patterns for it. I thought I'll come up with sequences for it. And then I stopped and thought, well, what's the point of that? Like that defeats the whole purpose of it. The purpose of it is to give you movement and
Yeah.
freedom. If I come up with patterns, I'm just putting myself, I might as well be back in a pentatonic box again.
Mm.
And what I quickly realized was I needed to learn the fretboard more and really
Oh, yeah.
think about intervals and
Yeah.
individual notes more. And so once I started to get better at that, it gave me all this movement that I didn't have before. And then of course once I adopted Frank's approach, it gave me movement this way.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I was talking to him about it, and I said, yeah, it's funny. I said if I play something like this, I said, well, there's Alan, and if I go, there's Frank, and then if I go, there's Alan, and if I go, there's Frank. There's Alan again, and he just laughed and said, "Ah, it's the Frank and Alan show." And I said, "It pretty much is the Frank and Alan show. It's if I had to just nail it down to 2 people, that's absolutely it.
Yeah. That's really cool.
2 of the biggest innovators you'll ever hear. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a remarkably different way to look at this instrument, I think.
Oh, for sure. There's your next book, the Frank and Allen book.
The Frank and Alan show. Yeah.
That's really good. But the other thing I find about the hybrid picking, which I've probably never really noticed until like really watching you play, it's a very clean sounding as well. Whereas like a lot of times you do get the pick, you do get those other strings coming over the top, but like especially how you notice you demonstrated before, you don't get any other strings. It's very very clean, plain.
Yeah, I really try. Like I know a lot of people. I mean, a lot of players like Greg Howe and well, Mateo does it too. Like a lot of people have the hair tie, the scrunchie
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah,
It's so amazing to watch them do it. It's like another skill where they're playing away and they quickly do that, and then they got all this going on. A lot of times, I think Mateo said he likes it for 2 hand stuff,
oh yeah,
and I noticed that if he uses it, his left hand position can stay really legitimate, almost like a classical player. It's like
mm,
really good, and it's very hard to mute like that. If I want to play some things to try and keep everything quiet, I've got to sort of go into like almost slide guitar territory where the heel of my hand comes down,
mm,
my hand has to flatten out a bit just to try and shut everything up. It's really, it's quite annoying, and it's still not perfectly clean, but
mm.
I do the best I can. But I guess with the fingers, and maybe Matteo finds this too, they've almost got their own little muting pads in a way with the flesh of the fingers.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
They want to quiet things anyway.
yeah,
Yeah, that could be a part of it. But
yeah.
I've got this when we talk about clarity and muting and all that sort of stuff. Many years ago, I played on it was probably the last Planet X album I think called Quantum,
Okay.
and with Virgil and Derek Sherinian, and Verge asked me to play on a couple of tracks because Alan Holdsworth was supposed to do the whole album, and Alan ended up only doing two songs. And originally, I think it was supposed to be me doing a couple, and then Tony McAlpine was going to do some, and
Okay.
even Greg Howe was going to do some. I think there was going to be a variety of people on it. And Virgil just kept sending me tracks, and eventually I played on the whole thing. But Alan still did play on two songs, on Desert Girl and The Thinking Stones. And then a few years later, Virgil and I went to India to play that album live for people, which was absolutely terrifying for me. It was some of the hardest stuff I'd ever managed to do was a live concert,
Wow.
and I had to play a seven string as well, which I
Oh,
had to buy a seven string to learn the tunes. And
yes.
but Virgil sent me the stem. I didn't have the tracks. I had to give them all back to Virgil. Obviously, I couldn't keep the tracks.
Yeah.
And Virgil sent me the stems of everything to learn the songs. And on the guitar stems were Alan's two solos. And so I'll never give them to anybody because I would never do that. I don't,
Yeah.
they're not mine to give away. But sometimes I listen to them and it's just Alan on his own playing these solos with that glorious reverb that I know he printed. That's probably his printed verb that he gave the guys.
Yeah.
He just said, put this in the mix.
Mm.
And it is just otherworldly. It is unbelievable. He's like, not only is what he playing otherworldly and next to impossible,
Yeah.
it is absolutely clean. There's not a hint of a scrape of a string
Yeah.
or a bump string. Like if you solo my guitar tracks, it quite literally sounds like a guy building a shed out back. I mean, yeah, there's stuff getting banged and carrying on all over the place. This is just it's so unbelievable. I've never heard anything like it. So,
Mm.
and I mean, I think Alan played a headless guitar, so he's not using any kind of hair tie thing or anything
Yeah.
because he used open strings all the time. He would use them all the time. So yeah, it just shows you that it can be done, but maybe you do have to be an alien
Yeah.
from from Bradford or where Alan was from in England. I don't know, but
Yeah, that's right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's great. So do you use the hybrid picking with slide as well?
yeah. It's the same, essentially the same technique. I mean, look, that's just how I play. I mean,
Yeah.
it's sort of like I'd love to be able to say I could play exclusives with it, like Guthrie Govan can. Guthrie said in an interview, fantastic interview, where he said if you can turn your picking hand into the Swiss Army knife of techniques, then it's really great. And he can do it. Like I mean, he can go, well, maybe I'll alternate pick this, or maybe I'll legato it, or maybe I'll hybrid pick it, or tap it. Like he's
Mm.
got all that at his disposal because there's another alien from the UK who just can do the impossible, but. Uh, Poor old Muggins here has just got to do what he can, Like, and if I'm playing something, it's going to be hybrid picked. I'm telling you that much. But yeah, it is the same thing. It's like if I play, I'm going to I'm going to hybrid pick it. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know when you watch Derek Trucks play, because Derek doesn't use a pick, I don't think, and I've never seen him use a pick. I think when Derek is playing on the high strings, anything that's not being used is being quietened by these fingers,
Yeah.
and I think his thumb is muting the low strings. I think you
Oh,
see he sort of drapes his thumb across them,
okay.
whereas I have to use the heel of my hand to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I should be back on my two camera thing, shouldn't I?
There you go.
Yeah. I sort of use you can sort of see the heel of my hand comes down across. So if
Yeah.
I'm playing on that guy, I'm trying to keep that guy quiet.
Hmm.
It's really hard. Sometimes it doesn't quite work, but but it's all I've got really. It's like, and then sometimes if I'm playing on that high string, and then you can see there these fingers are shutting this guy up,
Yep.
and I'm sort of trying to, and then sometimes it'll. I recently did it'll probably come out later in the year for Guitar Techniques magazine. It was a slide guitar lesson,
Okay.
and I decided I would do that where I just use those two going between two strings like that, where you don't mute anything, and so you hear the two strings, and then you try and there it is. That sometimes
Yeah.
I drop it, but when I'm down on that string, on the third string, it's that heel of hand keeping it quiet.
Mm.
So sometimes if I'm trying to play like a thing, like a, you can sort of see my hand roll across
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Mm.
So you sort of get that. The heel of the hand does play a
Yeah.
big role in muting.
You make it look so easy.
Oh boy, it's nothing's easy. Nothing's easy. It's all hard graft, every bit of it.
Now, just one last question. So, when you do your slide, are you always in standard tuning?
Yeah, if you gave me a guitar in open E or A, I'd be really lost. I mean, other
Yeah,
than just sort of doing the basic stay on a fret, I have no idea what to do. And
yeah,
I guess Derek Trucks did the inverse of what I did, which was try and adapt standard tuning to get some of those sounds that you get in open tunings.
yep,
And Derek stayed in open E and then just learned to play the entire instrument in open E, because that's why I remember seeing him play for the first time. Uh, he some of the chord voicings, I was going, what shape is that for a major seven chord? Because I could hear it, and I'm going,
yeah,
it sounds like a major seven to me. But I mean, of course he's in open E. He's got to re-finger everything to get it
yeah.
right. I actually jammed with Derek. TJ and I actually jammed with Derek at the NAMM show when he was only 15.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, it was funny. We were trying to get a gig for our band, and we talked to the guys at Hughes and Kettner because we had an endorsement deal with them. This was back in 1995.
Oh, okay.
Might have been 94, I think, 94.
Yeah,
And they said, well, no, we don't have a show, but Washburn do, and they've got this young guy, Derek Trucks, who needs a band to back him because he's a slide player and he's got no one to play with. And straight away, I thought Trucks. He's got to be related to Butch Trucks because I'm a huge Allman Brothers fan. And
yeah, yeah.
sure enough, yeah, I met Derek, and we met Derek and his dad, and
Oh,
it was
wow.
really nice. He was very shy though; he didn't really say anything to us,
Yeah,
and our band got up and played some of our tunes, and then Derek came on and we just did a blues, and it was funny because so he's only 15, and I remember I thought, well, he's really good. He's kind of like a Dwayne Allman style player, and
yeah.
I thought, yeah, he'll be great. And then 10 years later, I was back at Musicians Institute doing some open counselling there, and I was walking up the halls. I saw tonight in the live room Derek Trucks band. And I went, oh, great! I'll get to go and see him now. 10 years later, and
Yeah.
man, it was like a religious experience. It was just because it was Derek Trucks as we know him now, and it was.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there going, well, I thought I could play slide guitar.
Mm,
Yeah, and I thought this must have been what it was like to see Hendrix for the first time.
yeah.
It was fantastic and thoroughly depressing all at the same time. It was
Yeah.
just
Unreal.
inspiring and soul destroying because I thought, oh no, this what a player, what a musician. But it was
Yeah.
so great.
That's
Um,
great.
but yeah, I stayed in standard because I this is my old Strat that I used to play, and it always had a floating bridge,
Mm.
and I thought, well, I can't retune it and for
Oh,
the
yeah,
two
yeah.
slide songs I play, so I thought I might as well just stay in standard tuning, and I only stuck it on the second finger because Joe Walsh did, and he was the sort of the actual first person I ever saw play slide was Rick Formosa from Little River Band,
Okay.
and then I sort of gave up on it, and then saw Joe Walsh doing Rocky Mountain Way on this TV show, and I noticed he put it on the middle finger. It's quite unusual. Like Jeff Beck does it, Bonnie Raitt,
Yeah.
Joe Walsh, and and me. And almost everybody else uses either the third finger or the fourth finger. Dave Hole from Perth puts it on his first finger, which is
Oh,
awesome.
really?
Yeah, Dave goes over the top like that,
Oh,
so he's like
okay.
lap steel when he plays it. So
Wow.
it just goes to show you, there's no rules. You can do anything you
Yeah.
want. I'm waiting to see someone put it on their thumb, but I remember just really missing that interval of which you get when you're straight across in
Hmm.
open E, because this
Yep.
string is up a half step, and I thought, I wonder if it would work if I could do it, and I just went. So it's really cool, and if you can get the fifths in tune, if you can get this in tune, you can get the whole triad then. So
So
if you
cool.
go around the other way, you can get the
Oh, yeah.
and sometimes it's handy for a sharp nine if you want to get that. Yeah, so all that stuff. You can sometimes you can get you can do like a, and then I have to sort of put my third finger there to keep that middle string quiet. So then I can go. Sort of get a few things like that going on.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes octaves if you. I've got to keep these guys. I've got to shut these guys up now. So there's a lot that can be done.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
If you, but it's not an exact science. It's thank God for vibrato to cover up some of the intonation issues.
Yeah.
But it's
So,
good. I love playing sliding.
yeah. So do you pretty much just like that, taught yourself that, develop how to get all those different intervals and
All of it.
bending the
When
slide?
I started to angle it like that, like I was probably about, I don't know, 15 or 16, maybe 16. So we're talking mid to late 70s.
Yep.
And I just kept on doing it because I thought, great, problem solved. I never thought anything of it. No one around here ever mentioned it. And it wasn't until I think I went to the States and people started talking about it. And they were like, what are you doing? And for a minute there, I thought, gee, I wonder if I've actually invented something. I wonder if I'm actually doing something somewhat original for a change for the first time in my life. And then, of course, when YouTube became a thing, I remember my good friend Marcel Yamuni in Melbourne put a Jeff Beck clip on in 2004, and Jeff was doing it.
Oh, was it?
Way back in the 70s. Yeah, he did this fantastic album with Bobby Tench, this great singer, and they did a cover of Bob Dylan's song "Tonight I'll Be Staying Here with You," and Jeff was doing it.
Oh,
And
wow.
once again, the governors beat me to it.
Yeah,
Oh well, we got close. We got close to
yeah.
something original.
That's it. No, yeah, thank you very much. This has been great. And
Oh man,
can't wait to get more into the book.
awesome! God, thank you. God, it's great.
Yeah, so hopefully
Chat again after all these years.
I know. Yeah, and thanks again for doing all those videos for me. That was awesome. And the
Oh,
album.
anytime, anytime. Two cameras now, so
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
really fancy. Yeah. Good on you. Thanks, Adam.
No worries at all. But I'll talk to you, real soon.
Mate. All right. See ya.
Thank you. See you later. Bye.